Welcome to CGTN's Groundbreakers Roundtable discussion. I'm Huang Fei, coming to you from Lima in Peru. From the Great Wall to Machu Picchu, from Shanghai to Chancay, the Asia Pacific is where history meets the future. And with the APEC meetings wrapping up today, we're here to unpack some of the main takeaways and interesting proposals that are shaping the region's future. And I'm joined by three amazing experts in China, Jose, Leo, and Alicia. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, so let's dive in. I'm going to start with a big question, a big picture question. What was your biggest impression or your big takeaway from this year's meeting? What stood out to you most?
Well, for me, it was this renewed commitment to free trade, because as we know, in the US, there's a new president incoming, Mr. Trump, which in the past, in his first time, he was a little bit more protectionist. So this renewed commitment from the 21 economies member of APEC, I guess it is important, it is symbolic, and that's, I think, one of the most important things.
Yeah, and I mean, China and US, although this is a group that represents 21 economies, I have heard pretty much everyone, a lot of the journalists asking questions about China and the US. So yeah, that's definitely a big takeaway, I think, for a lot of people as well. What about you, Alicia?
I think that it's very important to think about the cooperation between these economies and also how Peru will take these advantages. For that, we need to improve our policies, some regulations to improve the prosperity in the community as well. So I think that the new agenda is putting on the table after this event.
The new energy?
Energy transition.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, definitely this is a key topic in the world, and especially because these economies are driving the industry for a lot of countries and economies. So in this way, I think that governments have to put the best effort to shape this transition to improve the lives of people who are living in different communities, not just near to the industries, but also in the rural and other areas.
Absolutely. I mean, green is, front and center. Even, if you look at the stage for the APEC CEO Summit, it's all greens.
And it is.
Yeah, very lush, very green. You can see that the sustainability is a main focus.
It's the future, definitely.
Yeah, it's for the future. And what about you, Jose?
I think this APEC, well, this is the third time Peru hosts the APEC meetings. And it's somehow a really great opportunity and platform for us to, showcase also the good things about our country. And talking a little bit more about the cooperation between Peru and China, I think this APEC also, makes the third time that our presidents meet within the span of 1 year. Last year in APEC San Francisco, in June when our president was in China, and this time when President Xi Jinping is coming, right? So I think it's a really great moment also for the bilateral cooperation, and I mean we have seen a lot of mechanisms of cooperation, including, like, for instance, the optimization of our free trade agreement, as well as signing another MOUs and cooperation framework agreements. So I do think the future looks very promising, and of course, the highlight of these days was also the inauguration of the Chancay port. So
yeah, absolutely. I mean, you mentioned a very interesting point, what we call heads of state diplomacy in China. The personal rapport between the presidents are certainly going to be a catalyst for a whole host of opportunities and important projects across all areas. And you mentioned Chancay Port, so let's dive into that. I mean, this is obviously, I guess, one of the biggest highlights of APEC this year. President Xi came here and he inaugurated the port. And Leo, I think infrastructure is your area of expertise. What can you tell us about this port?
So it's a huge investment in the region. It's one of a kind. And as you mentioned, it's very symbolic that the very President Xi Jinping was present for the inauguration. I think he was involved in very few other projects in the inauguration. And as for what this port represents for Peru, it is an opportunity. I guess the Peruvians in general are very welcoming this investment, and it has a lot of potential to promote other investment in the region, for example, because this sort of improvement in the logistics facilitate the development of new businesses, of incoming foreign direct investment, for example. We heard that BYD would be interested in establishing an assembling plant in the surrounding area. So these kind of things are very welcome in the country. And as I mentioned, people have a lot of expectation on this. And let's see how it goes in the future. But we are very much optimistic with this port.
But let's backtrack a little bit. You know, for those who aren't so familiar with Chancay, tell us a little bit about this.
Well, in Chancay there are different processes at this time. The first and most important was the port was inaugurated yesterday. So the next steps is to provide some other opportunities like supply chains and diversify the economics diversification for it, and people is with high expectation about these possibilities to change their lives. There is really interesting how they will take this port as a new future for next generations as well.
Yeah, and you said high expectations. So, you know, I've got a few numbers here. I read that it's a multi-billion-dollar project. I think the final cost would be about $3.5 billion, right?
Yes, the first phase was 1.6, if I'm not mistaken, and that's what was inaugurated. And then for the future, depending on how the project will develop these first few years, it would be able to reach up to $3.5 billion.
Substantial investment from China. I think it's 60% owned by COSCO Shipping, a Chinese company, right?
That's right, yes. 60% stake from COSCO Shipping, and the other 40% it's for Volcan Mining. It's a local company.
Yeah, I see. And in terms of the opportunities that it's going to provide, we also saw from President Xi's own article a few days ago, writing that once complete, it could provide over 8,000 local jobs. And I see that it's a project that will cover 140 hectares of land, and the ports will be able to accommodate the largest carriers in the world. You know, for those who aren't so familiar with port facilities, why is it so important? You know, the sheer scale of this project.
Yes, as you mentioned, the port area is huge, especially when compared to other ports operating in Peru or in the rest of the Pacific coast of South America. And this is very important for the potential of this port of becoming a hub. By hub, I mean a center for logistics in the Pacific coast of South America, because since it will be able to receive such large ships, what other countries can do is ship their cargo to Chancay, and from there you do transshipment. So you load this cargo from the smaller ships into these bigger ships, and by doing so you can optimize the logistics, and you can reduce costs and also potentially reduce timing in the transit time for the cargo in the trade, especially from the Pacific coast of South America with China, but also with the greater Asia Pacific region.
Absolutely. You mentioned something important, time. Time is money in the world of trade and logistics. And right now, I think it takes about 30 days for Chinese goods to reach here.
Days,
right? 30 to 35 days. And with the port complete, it could reduce that time by
10 to 12 days.
10 to 12 days.
Yes.
That's a significant time saving for companies.
And just to add on Leo's as well, like it's a port that has a very the depth.
Yeah,
it's a deep port, like more than 17 meters, which also allows to bring the largest shipments in the world. And with this idea of becoming a hub and create this sort of a direct route to Asia, right? Like current routes, I mean, they go through US, through North America, right? But since since the idea is to create this regional hub, I think it's very promising that it can empower and encourage importers and exporters to take advantage not only from Peru but from a regional level, right? Thinking about opening new markets, thinking about new products and so on.
Yeah.
If I can jump in, sorry,
Sure.
real quick, just to also highlight in the potential of the port, the timing, the transit time is one of the factors, and it is definitely relevant. But I would like to highlight that the most important factor for the shippers, for the traders, when actually choosing the logistics service is costs. So that's the key thing for Chancay. We've been hearing a lot of the potential of lowering, reducing the freight costs. But yeah, that's the most important thing. If it is able to reduce in like 30% or so, as we've heard, that would be very significant.
Yeah, and I also read that it's going to be the first smart port
Yes.
in this region. I mean, I know a thing or two about smart ports. Again, coming from the city of Guangzhou in South China, we've got, I think, one of the
Port.
largest, yeah.
And the Shenzhen port is also
largest
yeah.
in the world, one of. And yeah, smart, and we've got sections of the ports where it's completely automatic,
yes.
right? 5G powered vehicles basically uploading ships to the dock, and then we've got these automatic vehicles moving the cargo around. Whereas the port workers before, they had to sit in the cranes to operate. Right now they just sit in an air-conditioned office, and
Yes.
yeah, everything's very, very efficient. So this is going to be the first smart port for South.
Yeah, it's probably the most advanced port infrastructure in the whole region.
Yeah. And what implications do you think that will have? This, I think, being smart is also quite green as well, right?
Definitely it is, because logistic and transport is produce a lot of emissions, so that is positive for this process, especially because the energy transition in this time is have been driven by reduced emissions, and this is a fantastic opportunity for that. We are looking for involve the academic as well. So actually we have a project in our center about just energy transition from the China's view, because it's a key player in the global competition for transition minerals. And we in the region, we have a lot of the key elements like lithium in the lithium triangle. We have more than 50% of global reserves of this mineral. And then copper is in Peru and Chile as well. So it's an option to export our products, and we have to build a strategy for sustainable produce, looking for maximize the benefits and minimize the risk for our regions, for people who can access to energy even at this time.
I see. So with this mega infrastructure and with the deep water facility capacity, does that mean that it opens up new potential for new commodities or new markets?
Sure. As I was saying before, it is the sport has the potential of attracting investment or facilitating the development of companies also here, local companies, and in that sense, it can for sure help change the trade pattern between Peru and the rest of the world, actually, but maybe especially with China, because China, Peru is a major exporter of commodities, of copper, of oil. And these products, of course, they have their value, they are important for the economy, but Peru wants to do more. Peru wants to export also, to produce first, of course, higher value-added products, especially manufacturing, and then to be able to export to the rest of the world. So in that sense, Chancay has its great potential to facilitate the development of this kind of business, be that with local capital or with foreign capital, with foreign direct investment.
Yeah, and Jose, you mentioned the route change. That's quite interesting. That would surely have some geopolitical implications. You mentioned that I think before ships had to go through North America or Mexico on the way to Peru, yeah, crossing the Pacific. Now they don't have to do that.
Yeah, of course, it will have economic impact in these other ports that that are not taking the cargo. But on the other side, I consider Chancay as a new model of the cooperation between Peru and China, in a sense that, as Leo mentioned, right, it's a joint project of a Chinese company and a Peruvian company. It has the most advanced technology for port infrastructure, and at the same time, it facilitates to our markets to be closer, right? Just within the APEC meetings, we have signed up optimization for our free trade agreement, and we also sign up the opening of new Peruvian products that can actually, go to the China market, including frozen fruits, including pecans and cashews, and I think it will be, the commerce of these new products will be empowered by Chancay, but at the same time, this direct route will help Chinese companies to bring their products in a more cost-effective way. And when we think about Chinese companies, I'm thinking more in the digital Chinese companies, right? In this optimization for free trade agreement, we have included a new chapter that it's focused on cross-border e-commerce. So we do expect, let's say, more e-commerce platforms, connection between these two markets, right? Between Peru and between China, right? And for instance, let's say some of the most advanced digital companies like Douyin, Xiaohongshu, Pinduoduo, Temu, Shein, will actually take more advantage of this direct route in terms of looking also for new markets.
One criticism that I've read about Chancay Port, the fact that it's so convenient, its direct route, is that this way China can dump their products, their cheap products to this market to sort of deal with the overcapacity domestically. What do you say to this kind of criticism?
Well, it's open market, it's free market, so it's competition, and it definitely can help lower logistical costs in general, which includes the imports from China. So the imports from China could indeed become cheaper in Peru, but Peru already imports a lot from China. The competition already exists. So personally, I don't see it as a big changer in that sense that will allow China to dump its imports, or from the Chinese perspective, its exports to Latin America or to Peru in particular. But it definitely can help lower costs. And of course, that also has a good side, which will make products more available to the Peruvians, to the locals, and it could also facilitate the integration of Peruvian companies with global value chains. So this sort of things are quite positive, I would argue.
And the port being in construction for many years now, I believe there was some pushback in the beginning, but have you seen a change in perceptions towards this port, speaking of the locals?
This port was started with the current arrangement, which is China and the Chinese company and the Peruvian company in 2019. And it was inaugurated just yesterday. So this is actually quite fast, I would say, because, there was the pandemic in the middle. It's a huge port. So I would say it was a good timing for the construction. But as you mentioned, indeed, there was these issues throughout the construction. There was, for example, a collapse or a partial collapse during the construction of this tunnel. And these kind of things, indeed, kind of rose some, I wouldn't say suspicion, but perhaps people were a little bit displeased with these kind of things, of course. And but it didn't really affect that much the construction of the port, in the sense that, of course, when there was the issue, they stopped, but they dealt with it. The local authorities were also very involved into this, and then it was able to resume the construction, and everything went smoothly from there on. Another thing that is currently a debate is the regulation of this port. For example, the pricing of the freight that they will be able to charge, whether it should be regulated or not, because whether it will be a port that will compete with the existing ports or not. These kind of things are currently in debate. Also because it's a very new port, it's a game changer. So these kind of things, of course, make it understandable that there's these ongoing issues. But I think we can be confident that these problems will be sorted.
Yeah, and another subject of debate when it comes to these big infrastructure projects is the environmental impact. And I read that the Chancay port actually involved environmental projects, and this was written in President Xi's article as well, that there were initiatives to protect the wildlife, the birds, the seagulls, the seals and things like that. What can you tell us about that?
Well, I think that it's natural because it's a big project over there in this area that don't have similar projects before. So the relationship between company, government, and community, I think that it's key. And especially at this time, because everything is ready to start, so people are with these expectations that we mentioned it high, and they will think about the 8,000 employees or how they will receive the benefits. And in different industries in our country, they have a similar process. So it's important how the next steps will manage by the stakeholders in the area to improve the conditions for local community. I think that this is key issue for next month or next year.
Yeah. Do you have anything else to add when it comes to the Chancay port? Any personal anecdotes that you've heard? I mean, a few days ago, I was on the street interviewing some people, and I ran into this young person who happens to also be a reporter, local reporter, and he says he's actually really interested or excited about the Chancay port because he has many friends from that area, and it's going to pretty much change the communities because, you know, as you said, it's going to put Chancay on the map as an important hub for global trade. Yeah, well, in our university, we are developing this sort of observatory, Chancay Observatory, because we want to look at how this project is actually a change maker within the Peruvian economy, right? And especially as we look on how it will integrate some sort of the supply production chain, not only in the north of Peru, but also within the Indian part and also the Amazon part, right? So we do think that this is going to be very interesting. And of course, like as an observatory, we also look at how from the academia we can contribute with more ideas and projects, right? So we have identified, for example, around 35 students from our university that are from this area, Chancay and other like provinces that are very close to. And the idea is that they develop, let's say, some like business plans or like some sort of like projects in which they can actually involve and take advantage of the port. So I mean, at least for us, it's something that we really are looking like in a very systematic way, and we want to, you know, like understand what is the potential as well as how it evolves in the next years. Yes, and building on the discussion on Chancay, let's talk about what President Xi spoke this morning. I mean, for you China watchers, this is a big day with all these new messages coming out. And of course, the key words remain, you know, solidarity, innovation, and inclusive growth. And I'm just going to read one quote from President Xi and get your thoughts. He said that Asia-Pacific cooperation is confronted with challenges such as rising tendencies of geopolitics, unilateralism, and protectionism. And we must act in solidarity to build an Asia-Pacific community with a shared future. I mean, this is a phrase that we hear so much in recent years. A shared future, a Asia-Pacific community, or a China-Latin America community with a shared future. How do you interpret this initiative?
Well, I think in general lines, the speech from President Xi Jinping resonate well with Latin America and with Peru in particular, because as you said, this sort of constructive words like solidarity or this shared future, they resonate well with the region because they mean increased trade, more investment, and these kind of things. It's what really interests our countries, our Latin American countries, because we are still a developing region. The countries are, for the most part, middle-income economies here in Latin America, and we want more opportunities to develop, which of course more trade, having more opportunities to sell what we produce and to have other companies for indirect investment enter our countries. This is very welcome, and of course having a free economy or free markets and open economy facilitates this process. So having such a high-level president championing this kind of values, this is certainly something good for us, for Latin America.
And another thing that President Xi championed in his speech today is that he emphasized the importance of green innovation and cross-border cooperation in data exchange. I mean, our economies are becoming more interconnected. Everything's going to the cloud. You guys mentioned e-commerce before, and then with smart ports, everything's going to 5G as well. So data or digitization is really crucial. What opportunities do you see in leveraging these trends in terms of data flow? And I guess President Xi mentioned an initiative for a global data exchange initiative or something to that.
Yeah, I think that it is related with the new paradigm in our public service. We are transitioning to a new era there when digital government is improving the services for the citizenship. So it could be a good opportunity to improve the tools and the capabilities from the public sector here, and we stay ready to take these advantages as well. Also, I think that we need to be close to our perceptions between us. Actually, in our project, we are looking for what do stakeholders need to know about China. Our research is involved Latin American universities, but also Peking University and Boston University, to understand from the academic works how these opportunities could be means improvements for our societies in the region and increase the agenda not just for trade, but also for social and environmental issues as well, related to use of technology and innovation, but for these different gaps that we have in our region.
So in terms of the green transition, that's another contentious debate going on, that China being the world's leading producer of things like EVs or solar panels, that we are somehow threatening local industries that are trying to develop the same things. And obviously Peru or Latin America is a huge market for this, and governments here seem to also be very committed to the green transition. How do you guys see this debate, China's role in leading the green transition among this criticism?
Well, definitely China is the key player because the demand of minerals for this transition, but also it's important to see how we can manage in our region this, for instance, electrical vehicles without infrastructure. So policy is key for this new scenario, and also think about solar panels to provide energy for people who are still cooking with wooden or polluting energy. So there are different opportunities to deliver well-being for citizenships and to develop the industry as well at the same time.
Yeah, and I think that ties into another point that President Xi emphasized, which was inclusiveness. He said that we should work together to, quote, grow the pie and distribute it equitably. And he mentioned China's reform and opening up, China's modernization, that we should, try to share the benefits of our developments with the world. I wonder, what lessons do you think Peru or Latin America can learn from China's developmental philosophies?
Well, for me, I think one of the key elements of China in terms of policy is for sure the long-term vision. That is something that I do think probably our countries are lack of. I mean, and China has a very clear, sort of roadmap in which milestones they want to achieve in the next 20 to 30 years, right? Like goals by 2030, goals by 2049. So this long-term vision, I think, is something that is very unique, and it's very interesting to see how China mobilizes all the society or the resources in order to reach that goal, right? Including as well like the decarbonization goal by 2060. But at the same time, I mean, looking into some successful policies, for instance, in reducing poverty, right, by 2020, the extreme poverty by 2020. It's something that I think like we can learn in a sense that, for instance, how within the country you have this sort of pairing up policies in which the developed provinces helps to the poor or underdeveloped provinces, and as well on how using digital economy. Like we need to remember that last year around 40% of China GDP was related to the digital economy. How the digital economy in China connects, let's say, the rural economy with the urban economy in order to do like some business and trading, right? So I think there are many lessons that China can provide as an inspiration for our countries.
Yeah, and in terms of interactions, we are also seeing an increase of cultural and educational exchange. This is again something that President Xi made many references of in his speeches and in his articles. He repeated that both China and Peru are ancient civilizations, and that we share so many cultural similarities. I wondered, in a meeting like APEC, which is primarily an economic sort of dialogue, why is it important to highlight this cultural bond?
Because it facilitates mutual understanding. I think people-to-people bonds are very important in this regard. And one of the part of the mission of APEC is also to facilitate the free flow of people. Because again, this facilitates the mutual understanding. So for example, Jose Carlos and I, we both studied in China with scholarships, and which of course facilitates these sort of exchanges. Hopefully Alicia will also sometime soon be able to go. And so the point here is that this sort of opportunity, when you go to the other country and you meet local people, you learn at least a little bit of the local language, and of course a lot from the local culture. These kind of things help understand how the other thinks, and in doing so you can also build stronger ties, or you can understand better the issues that eventually you face, for example, during a negotiation of a free trade agreement. Of course, there are compromises that you have to make. There are bottom lines that you absolutely cannot. So if you have counterparts that understand each other better, it's easier to strike deals. It's easier to also know when you simply cannot. And that's why I think people-to-people bonds or cultural understanding in the framework of APEC is very important.
Absolutely, and it seems that the Peruvian government recognizes the importance of people-to-people ties. So very recently, your government announced February 1st as the China-Peru Fraternity Day or Friendship Day. Yeah, what happens on that day?
Yeah, well, I have to say that, Peru is a special case in terms of the region because I think we are the most Asian country within South America. We have the largest Chinese community in the whole Latin America, as well as the second largest Japanese community in South America. So in a sense, our culture is also very connected to the Asian culture. And especially with China, because we have more than 175 years. We were the first country that received large-scale migration from China, and during the Qing dynasty, right? And in 1972, we have the diplomatic relation with the People's Republic of China, right? So we are, as Chinese said, we are Lao Penyo, like old friends. And we do believe that this bond, this connection that we have, it really helped to boost all the other aspects like commerce, trading, connection, cooperation. For instance, nowadays, you can find also more than 200 Chinese companies operating in Peru, and of course the number will increase, right? And of course, we also see an evolution of the Chinese investment here, right? From a very traditional mining sector to now sectors like energy, technology, et cetera, et cetera. So I think it's a good thing that our countries and our economies are bonding, especially with different mechanisms, including APEC, including our FDA, including different agreements. So I do think, for me, the Peru-China relation is going to become even more closer.
Thank you very much. Well, I think we've covered a wide range of topics today, from the highlights of APEC meetings to President Xi's key messages, and to the deep cultural ties that connect us as ancient civilizations. I thank you all for joining this insightful discussion. Thank you. And that's all the time we have.